Hi, everybody. It's DC the Blacksmith. I'm back for another In Re vlog. This is going to be the recap and review of day 4 of the January 6th committee public hearing. If you watch my previous videos, I had thought I was going to be able to put them together, but that video ended up being an hour and some change on its own. So instead of muddling through timestamps, you get separate videos. So we're going to be covering or recapping and reviewing today day 4 of the January 6th committee public hearing. And again, I'm going to, since now that I understand the format, I'm just going to do the layout. So how these these public hearings have been working is that each day has covered a different topic. And the topics are supposed to unravel multiple efforts to subvert the 2020 election in an not legal manner. And so how the hearings are introduced each time is we start the hearing, the chair, Benny Thompson, Democrat from Mississippi, he opens, he gives what I've been calling the impact statement. And then the vice chair, Liz Cheney, Republican from Wyoming, she speaks and she gives the abstract. I don't know, but she tells us where we've been in the prior hearings and then where we're going today in this hearing. And then they introduce another committee member, and the third committee member is the lead on that hearing. They run the narrative, they narrate the hearing. So this one was on June 21st, 2020, this hearing. We start with Benny Thompson. He opens, he says that there are still currently, like today, current elections where there have been refusals to certify votes in local elections. And they are still citing claims from 2020, which this hearing is hopefully trying to dismantle and debunk. And the courts have had to step in. And even after the courts step in, some officials, they relent, but they still are, they basically stick to their story that, we're following the court's orders, but based on these January 6th issues, we still think there was a problem. I hope y'all didn't hear my neighbors in the hallway acting like they've never been in creation before. Anyways, so then Liz Cheney gives her opening statements, and she says that this hearing's focus is going to be on the efforts to pressure states and state election officials to change the election in favor of Trump. So where we come from is we've done the violence on January 6th. We did the big lie, which was day 1, if I believe. We did day 2. And I forget what day 2 was. Day 3 was about Vice President Pence. And so today is going to be on state level issues. Liz Cheney speaks, and then she shows video of Bill Barr from his closed deposition discussing claims made about Fulton County, Georgia, Atlanta. Maybe it includes other areas of Atlanta, but most people, when they hear Fulton County, they think Atlanta. And all the claims, and he says that they were all proven false, all of them. This is Bill Barr. They show videos of a Georgia election official, Mr. Sterling, the COO, I think. He's going to testify later in the hearing, but I remember watching this in real time where he gives a little speech outside of one of the state houses in Georgia, and he says, this is going too far. He says, enough is enough. He says, Donald Trump, you lost. You lost. That's simple as it. And Liz Cheney calls this, she calls what went on thug violence. And I remember thinking that she's serious. She is serious. Adam Schiff is then introduced next. He is a Democrat from California. He gives his opening. He's going to be the narrator, the guider, the lead for this particular hearing. He talks about the efforts to make alternate fake electorates that were going to be sent. It's so ridiculous. And that some states did send alternate electors. And he says that when the states refused, Trump and his team, they were trying to apply pressure and intimidate and threat violence on officials, on even poll workers. And there's going to be a election worker, not a worker helping people vote. She's going to be at this hearing as we get on into it. So they show more committee videos of a lead investigator, like a Trump, someone talking about the election claims and how basically they were all proven false. They show Trump's lawyers, or people talking about Trump's lawyers were calling state officials. And Adam Schiff says the system held, but barely. He says the system held, our democratic system held, but barely. So the panel for today is Arizona state legislator. He's the Speaker of the House in Arizona, Mr. Bowers, the Georgia's Secretary of State, or then Secretary of State, Secretary Raffensperger. I think I say his name wrong every time. And then the Georgia COO to the Secretary of State's office, Mr. Sterling. He's the one that was out there saying enough is on enough. So, Benny Thompson, I believe, poses this question first, and he asks Mr. Bowers, the Arizona Speaker of the House, state legislator, he says, is it safe to say you wanted President Trump to win in 2020? And Mr. Bowers says, yeah. He said, I did. And what that statement is to say is, these aren't people who wanted him to lose. These are people who were hoping he win, but he didn't. He didn't. Simple as that. So they talk about how former President Trump had issued statements like just before this hearing, just before the hearing had started, calling Bowers a rhino and saying that he had a conversation with, I don't want to use I try not to use 4-letter words and stuff like that, but this is really some stuff. And y'all, if you know, you know. But that President Trump said that he called, had a phone conversation with Bowers, and Bowers told him that he was right. And Bowers said that he did have authority to do yada, yada, yada. So they asked Mr. Bowers, is that true? And Mr. Bowers says he did have a conversation with Donald Trump. He said, but any implication that he said that the election was rigged or that Trump won, he said he's never said that to anyone ever. Never. He said he's never said that. And somebody that got some sense would have never said that. Fool. So he says that he called, let me see. So Donald Trump called him and was telling him on the phone, I think Giuliani was on the phone too. No. Bowers said that at one point he had got a call. And when he picked up the phone, it said, hold for the president, or operator at the White House, however they do their lines. And he said before the president came on, Giuliani came on, they talked a little bit, and then the president came on. This sounds so basement phone-ish. It just is something about this that's just, I just don't understand. Oh, this is so basement phone-ish. So he said that when Trump got on the line, he told him that, there was, we found out that there were immigrants who voted who shouldn't have, non-American citizens who voted who should have. There were dead people that voted. Broward said, "Do y'all have names?" And he said Giuliani said they did have names. He said he never got any. He never got any. And if I remember, during the night of January 6th, when they came back to session, Lindsey Graham gave a speech and said, "I tried to be helpful. I'm done." And Lindsey Graham said himself, he said he asked for, and they said dead people voting. He said, give me 10 names. Give me 10 names. He said he hadn't got one. He repeated Lindsey Graham a few times. So if Lindsey Graham said it and Bowers is saying it, I believe it. I don't believe they got together to come up with the same lie. He said he never got any names because there wasn't no names, because it's ridiculous. So Giuliani and Trump were asking Browers to hold, in another phone call, I think, were asking him to hold an official committee in Arizona. And Browers said he told them no. He said he felt like the circus had gone on long enough. He said it was over. Then they asked Browers about removing electorates, and Broward said he told them that is counter to the oath of the United States Constitution and the Arizona Constitution. And Broward said that in one conversation, he said he can't remember who exactly said it, Trump or Giuliani, but it was thrown around. Well, aren't we all Republicans? You know, we're all Republicans. Aren't we all Republicans? And Broward says that he believes, he pontificates a little bit. He believes that as a tenet of his faith, he believes that the Constitution was divinely inspired. And I agree. And I've heard a lot of other media commentators pick on him about this. And I just think that that's where there's a disconnect sometimes. People can have their faith. I don't find anything wrong with him saying that he believes. That's what he said. He said he believes that the Constitution was divinely inspired. What he did not say was everybody has to believe that as well. I think that if you go amongst all religions, everybody probably believes that if they live in a country that is a country that's marked by the practice of their religion, they believe that their governance was divinely inspired. If you are a Christian, I am. If you have a relationship with Jesus Christ, which I do, and I hope to have a better one as I move on in life, you believe that God created everything. Everything. Me, you, the good things, the bad things, he created it all. So then, as a tenet of your faith, yeah, you do believe that if God created everything, nothing exists without him, then yeah, the Constitution was divinely inspired. That's fine. Because we have a Constitution, it is perfectly fine for me to say, oh, I believe it was divinely inspired. I believe there was divine intervention going on with the Constitution. What I cannot go around doing is saying everyone has to believe that as well, because of how our Constitution was inspired to be. If you're a Christian, you also believe that people have a choice. People are supposed to come when when that choice fits them. What I cannot go around doing is forcing people into my religion in America. That's what I cannot go around doing. But I don't really think it was right to pick at him just because he said, as a tenet of his faith, he believed that the Constitution was divinely inspired, and that went a lot into the decision when he was so aghast of what they were asking him. So that's just my own personal take with him. But yeah, I also believe that, and I will continue to believe that. Does that mean that I don't think that we can make changes, we can further elaborate and do all? No, that doesn't mean anything. That just means that on the day that they was doing all that stuff, I believe God was in the room. And if there's a day where we amend the Constitution, and there has been several, I believe God was in the room. We did that too. And if there's a day where the Supreme Court is interpreting the Constitution, whether I like it or not, how the decision comes out, I believe God was in the room. Because as a Christian, I don't believe anything happens without God being in the room. I believe my God shows up and shows out every time. So yeah, I don't know why people were picking on him about that. And that's a lot of a disconnect in the nation. Freedom is supposed to mean you do you, you do you, you do you, you do you. We're supposed to have a propensity towards people making whatever it is that makes you happy, so long as you're not interfering significantly on someone else's right. And what I don't mean is, well, I'm offended by that. That infringes on my right. No, you have a right to be offended. I'm sorry. But what it means is you're not bothering people or making people do something they don't want to do. But that's a whole nother conversation. Anyways, the Browers, the Arizona state legislator, they continue with questioning him a little bit. And this particular day 4 hearing was a little bit more like the type of committee hearings that we see where you have a panel and then you have questions. So it looked a little bit more like it. But Brower says he remembers Giuliani saying, "Oh, we have theories, but we have no evidence." And I wrote down, that's on brand. That was on brand for Rudy Giuliani at this time. That was on brand for him. And Brower said he don't know if Giuliani meant it as a joke, but he said the few people that heard it after kind of laughed and ha-ha and he-heed about it. And I don't know had I would have laughed and ha-ha and he-heed. I might have had to tell him, okay, then you don't have anything. We got theories, but we have no evidence. Then I'm gonna need y'all to shut up. See, I think at some point I would have got annoyed with this. And you can hear as I recap and review this, I just really think that this was a big tantrum. There is something about this that was a big tantrum. The way to go about this was the way that it happened in Bush v. Gore. There was an issue about the election in Florida during the Al Gore, George Bush election. So the battle was fought in court. The court determined that, no, we found no issue and this is how it's going to go. That's how somebody should have told Donald Trump, that's not what we do here. It's not what we do here. I don't know where you were raised or how or whatever. It's not what we do here, because that was ridiculous. Brower says that John Eastman asked him. John Eastman had all types of issues with him. I go over that in my last video. But Brower says that John Eastman asked him to take another vote about certifying the election and say they had the authority. It's just ridiculous. Obviously, Brower said no. He said no, he wasn't doing it. Browder says that Browers goes on to pontificate a little bit, and he says that, he has been in other countries when they have elections, and he basically says it's a matter of national pride how we have conducted elections and how we transition power. And if you've been in another country during their transition of power, during their transition of authority, not all, well, how it looked on January 6th is how it looked around the world, but how the normal course of business in this nation when it comes to transition of power, sometimes we might take that for granted. Well, before January 6th, we might have used to take that for granted, that we just do that. And you have one president one day, and then after a while, you have another president. And for the most part, your day-to-day life, you move on. Not all nations have that privilege, that luxury to do that. Now, what happened on January 6th, it probably was a lot of countries in the world saying, oh, that looked like us. Oh, yeah, we that happened next door. Oh, yeah, we used to do that. They probably were saying, oh, that's how our transfer of power used to be. But then we had Americans come in and help us not do that anymore. And I'm being facetious, but what I mean is we used to pride ourselves in wanting to help nations have their transition of power look like our transition of power. Now, y'all know I'm not for colonialism, but I'm just demonstrating a point that that's how much we used to say, oh, we do this all the time. We transition power and it's peaceful and we go on about our day and we'll do it again in 4 years or 2 years or yada, yada, yada. It's ridiculous what went on. It is so ridiculous. So they show more committee video footage. And then there's also, so throughout this particular hearing, and maybe I didn't pay attention to it enough during the other days of the hearing, but they have like like if you watch reality TV, you know about a confessional. They have some video that's kind of like a confessional of somebody speaking about the findings of the committee. This particular confessional was talking about the fake electorals effort and what was going on around the country. And what I didn't know is that there were some states that did have the fake electors actually meet and make up some little paperwork that they were going to send. Y'all, we were real close. We were real close to a secession. This is, I can't. So Browers finishes because they end up going to recess, but before recess, Browers says that him and his wife, they still have issues with people basically threatening him. And he says one of the things is they wait every Saturday to see what's it going to be. People calling them predators and this and that with blowhorns and all type of stuff, basically because he wouldn't participate in nonsense and tomfoolery. So they go to a 5-minute recess. They come back. And so remember, Browers was Arizona legislator. So then they speak to Raffensperger. And I said Raffensperger or Raffensperger, I think. They speak to basically the Georgia Secretary of State. That's what he's going to be here today. And then Mr. Sterling. So the Georgia Secretary of State, Raffensperger, he talks about how there's several processes that go on between when you get your ballot, no matter if it's you're getting your mail-in ballot at home or if you're voting in person, several processes that ballot goes through before it's finally counted. And those processes are to ensure security of the ballot. So that, to ensure that security and preservation of that ballot all the way to, the final tally of the state. Cool. So then Mr. Sterling speaks. So Mr. Sterling was the one that gave the speech and said, enough is enough. Basically, somebody need to tell Donald Trump he lost and to stop it. He said what happened to make him, how he got to that moment was that somebody showed him a tweet about one of his election workers. And the tweet was implying a threat to the election worker with like an image of a noose. And he said he lost it at that point. He just lost it. He says that there was no suitcase of ballots of anywhere, which was being repeated. He said, if you watch the full video, he said it shows them locking the ballot for the night. He says something happened to where these poll workers thought that their shift was going to end at 10 p.m. And, they were supposed to leave at 10 p.m. And for whatever reason, none of them did. They were told to keep counting. I think the reason they were told to keep counting is because we were trying to be quick and we were trying to, while we have this uninterrupted process here, let's try to get as much as we can, when we can, because there's some foolishness afoot. But he says, what you see is somebody locking the ballot in whatever container they lock the ballots in when they leave. And when they come back, they open it back up. So he says, if you watch that full video, it's timestamped. You see the person putting on their coat, locking up the thing, putting on their coat like they're about to leave. And you see them come back and take off their coat and open it up because everybody in the facility is about to start counting again. He said that's the full video. He said, you know, basically wasn't nothing wrong with their system. So then they show video of a rally in Georgia, a December 5th rally. No. January 5th rally, December 5th. Oh, y'all, I think in my last video, I was calling this a January 5th rally. I don't know. But the runoff rally in Georgia, whatever. So they show video of the runoff rally in Georgia, and Trump is talking about Democratic election workers. And, you know, there's video of Bill Barr. They show again video of Bill Barr saying that there was no merit to any of the Fulton County allegations. My problem with Donald Trump talking about Democratic poll workers and this and that, y'all, for years and years, we have ballot counters and poll workers. Some of them are Democrats, some of them are not. I know some people who work on the election boards who are Republican. So to act like, oh, it's just Democrats who run our elections, y'all, that is just so childish and stupid. It's ridiculous. I think I told somebody, I said, I didn't believe none of this from the beginning. Before we got to January 6th, I didn't believe any of this. If it was 10 Democrats cheating, it was 10 Republicans cheating. Do I believe that foolishness goes on during our elections? Yes. It's a massive election, 50 states, some billions of people, or however many people we have in this country. Yeah, it probably is some foolishness afoot. Do I believe that there were a scheme across all 50 states and everybody agreed and everybody got together and had some big conspiracy and all? No, I do not. And I will not. I won't. And I don't. Doesn't make any sense. So there was a question about the fact that some of the congressional candidates got more votes than they did in the presidential election. And Roethlisberger, the Secretary of State, says that their findings from their internal polling is that there was some 20-odd thousand Georgians who skipped the presidential vote or who skipped the presidential election. But then there were a lot of people who voted Republican down ballot for the representatives and other stuff, which leads to the whatever was off. I don't know. I remember before that election, there was some talk about a rigged election. So if you think it's going to be rigged anyway, you can go vote. You were telling people not to vote by mail. I mean, and to be honest with you, there was a lot of Republicans who were embarrassed by you. There's a lot of Republicans who lied. There's a lot of Republicans who lied. They lied. They said they voted for Trump and they did not. Now, do I believe those people voted Republican down ballot? They probably did. But a lot of Republicans were embarrassed because he had started acting a fool. The policies are good, but we can have anybody do those policies. He was acting a plumb fool in office. Didn't make any sense. So they go back to the Secretary of State. Well, they show some Trump phone calls with him talking nonsense. Then they go back to Georgia Secretary of State, and he says that there was no underage voters. There was no evidence, any of that. He said, in Georgia, you can request your ballot at 17 so long as you're going to be 18 by election day. He said, so yeah, there probably were underage people who had registered and may have even received their ballots, but as long as they were going to be 18 on or by election day, that was fine. He said there's no evidence of illegals voting, illegal citizens, or whatever we call them. That verbiage changes every day. And there's no evidence of any felons voting or anything like that. They show more phone calls alleging that they shredded the ballots and this and that, Trump foolishness. And then they not show phone call, they play the audio of. Then they play the audio of the famous phone call, the We just need to find 1,780 votes. I didn't realize that this was real close to January 6th. That was like days before January 6th. I didn't realize that. Just nonsense. Those witnesses get dismissed, and the next panel, which is just one person that comes in, and her name is, she goes by Shay Moss, Ms. Moss. I use Ms. I like MS. And she was a election worker, a ballot worker for 10 years. And she was dressed sharp, and she had, her nails were cute too. And her mother was behind her. So she said that she had never gotten any threats her whole 10 years of working as a poll worker. She never got any threats. Fulton County is where she worked. And then she said that the reason she likes her job is because she was always instilled by her grandmother about the importance of voting, the importance of having the right to vote and participate. And she says she loves talking to voters. She said, particularly when she speaks with older voters, and they like to call and they like to know that she's going to be there to help them. And she likes, helping them get their absentee ballots and all this stuff. And she says she really loved her job. So they play a video of Rudy Giuliani calling Ms. Moss and her mother out by name, saying that they were stuffing ballots somewhere like it was an illegal substance and this and that and the third. And so Ms. Moss said she found out when she went to work. She said she didn't know anything about it. And she went to work, and her supervisors and her directors asked her to come in. They showed her the video, and she said she got so panicked. And so then she said people were showing her how to get to her Twitter messages, because she didn't even know you could do that. And they get in the Twitter messages, and she said they were racist, sexist, hateful, all types of threats to her. And then, so Ruby Freeman is her mother. They show a phone call that Trump had with somebody, and he's calling Ruby Freeman, the mother, a scammer. And Ms. Moss said that she really felt like at fault. She felt like this was all her fault because she wanted to be an election worker. Had she never been an election worker, this wouldn't be her fault. So they show video of Ruby Freeman, the mom, Ms. Moss's mother, speaking before the committee in the private sessions. And to be quite honest with you, both women were great. The mother should have did the live testimony, and because the daughter was very nervous, but mom in her committee hearing, she was on it. But in the video, Ruby Freeman says that she won't even introduce herself by name anymore. She said the FBI had to come and put her in hiding, like in the lead up to the January 6th. Let's put a pin in it. So y'all knew something was going to go on January 6th. If y'all had to put her in hiding in the lead up to January 6th, why weren't the Capitol Police adequately staffed? That's what I want to know. Anyways, so then they go back to Ms. Moss, Shay Moss, the daughter, at the live hearing, and she said basically her life stopped. She says she transfers calls. She's not as into her job as she used to be. She says her life stopped because their name had been put out. They couldn't go anywhere. So then they cut back the video of Ruby Freeman, and she says, imagine the president targeting you personally by name. The president who's supposed to be for all Americans, who's supposed to represent you, targeting you by name. And she says, I'm a mother, I'm a small business owner, I'm a citizen. And nobody stood up to him in an adequate manner. And I believe that this behavior starts at home. And I just really believe that the heart of this is he did this because he knew wouldn't nobody check him. But he should have been surprised. because it should not have got to this point. We have elected officials. You know, I know people say you don't know what you'll do. Da, da, da. These are elected officials. We vote them in to be our voice when we can't be there. A lot of these people. These are people who've been in politics years. I don't know why these people have been fiending after Donald Trump and his money, as if these people don't make money on their own. These people have their own money. So I don't understand why it was this kiss up campaign. It's ridiculous. Anyways, they end on Ruby Friedman's video testimony, and then Adam Schiff gives his closing remarks, and he repeats what he said at the opening. The system held, but barely. It held, but barely. And, you know, he says he doesn't know if it will hold again, if we do this mess again. And he says, don't take our democracy for granted. Liz Cheney gives closing, and then Benny Thompson gives his closing, and then they adjourn. So I'm going to be with you guys for all of these public hearings. You know, you might not get the review the next day, but you're going to get it hopefully before the other ones. So, you know, check into the hearings, visit the website. I've try to remember to put the website in the description. Stay informed. And just, you know, we really, I think as a nation, again, I've said that I think these hearings should have been a little documentary, and I don't know, this is ridiculous. It shouldn't have happened, but I think this is a good opportunity as a nation to put some more things into perspective and reflect on who we are and who we aren't. Who are we trying to be? And what are we going to be? And if you have some type of moral fiber and compass, you need to stand on that. If you're a person that has some beliefs, you need to stand on that, whether it's Trump or whoever is in front of you. But stay informed. Now keep you guys updated.